So with me talking about a few Coppola films before Megalopolis comes out, of course I'm going to talk about his adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula and the other two horror films that he produced in the 90s. So today we're going to talk about the American Zoetrope horror trilogy from the 90s, which consists of Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein by Kenneth Branagh, and Sleepy Hollow by Tim Burton. So let's get right into it with the one that's... So if you don't know this or not, Winona Ryder was supposed to star in Godfather Part 3 as Michael Corleone's daughter, but she couldn't do it because she was doing so much at the time. Just was not going to happen. And then, so Coppola had to get his daughter. That was a bit of a, not a good one. Look, she's not the worst part of that movie. Like, even if Winona Ryder was in Godfather Part 3, I mean, you still have a very, like, the story is still kind of shit, but the whole, like, incest thing with her character and Andy Garcia. So, look, if Winona Ryder was in it or not, Godfather Part 3 is still bad. She would not have really saved it that much, despite being a better actor than Sofia Coppola. So after that whole fiasco, Coppola, at some event, he met up with Winona Ryder as a way, I guess, to conceal what happened. And at the end, Winona Ryder showed Coppola the script for a Dracula movie, an adaptation of Dracula, and as a way to see if, like, he'd be interested in that. And Coppola was totally down for it because he was, like, really into the Bram Stoker story and just didn't like how all the movies were that faithful and enjoyed how faithful this script was. And so, that's how this movie kind of, like, came together. And as many of you know, Coppola, you know, he wanted, like... First, like, this movie, I think there was so much money being put into the costumes, which are breathtaking. I said in my Oscars video that this is my favorite, like, best costume win for, like, any, Oscar wins. That's my favorite of the costumes. They're so good, and they're so expensive that I think Coppola was going to have the entire film be like a stage or something, like a lot of minimal sets, which not the best idea for a big motion picture. And thankfully, I think the studio, Columbia, lend them the sets, which are gorgeous. But I'm gonna talk about that later. Another big thing about this movie is that Coppola turned down the effects company because he just didn't like how they wanted to do more newer effects.
I thought that I would not only make the film entirely in a false place, in a studio, but I would only use effects done as they would have been done in 1900.
I have not been getting what I've been asking for. I have been asking for shadows and illusion and double impositions and imagination.
And the big visual effects supervisors came on the film and told me how I had to do this stuff. And basically I saw that little by little they were, as they always do, leading me down the path to do it the way everybody else does it. I fired them and I hired my young son, I don't know that he was even 30 at the time, Roman Coppola, to be my collaborator.
And so he did a bunch of, obviously did a lot of, like, old film effects that would have been done back in the 20s. And then he casted a lot of good actors and not the best choices. So right off the bat, he got Gary Oldman as, Dracula. And I don't think Gary Oldman, I don't think he was really the big actor yet as he kind of is today. I think he was in the Sid and Nancy movie. don't really know what else he was in. Like, I don't think he was. I don't know how big of a star he really was. Like, as he would go on, like, he would definitely, like, you know, like, he's, you know, today he's an Academy Award winning actor. And, I mean, Gary Oldman, like, he's not really an actor that I would say is my favorite, but I definitely like him. I mainly like him in the Dark Knight trilogy as Commissioner Gordon. He's the best Commissioner Gordon still, and that's who he sticks out to me as. Then you have Winona Ryder, obviously, who is the love interest, Mina. No, I've never been the big Winona Ryder fan. I don't think she's that great of an actress, and I've never seen Stranger Things, but I hear people say she's bad in that, but I don't know. And you know, she was definitely big, really just coming off of, like, you know, the Tim Burton films that she did, you know, Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands. I don't know about Heathers, because I know Heathers was like a cult film, wasn't so big when it came out. So I don't know. I mean, I think my dad might have. I don't know when the cult phenomenon of Heathers caught on. And you have Anthony Hopkins coming off of playing Dr. Hannibal Lecter, and is now playing Dr. Abraham Van Helsing in this. He was obviously picked to do this movie just because of Silence of the Lambs, because, like, Anthony Hopkins, he had been around for, like, a long time. You know, he was, like, I think, like, the most famous, like, film that he probably was in before Lambs was probably The Elephant Man. He was more of a stage actor, but, but then he was in Silence of the Lambs, and that, like, really boosted his career. Like, after, because, like, that, you know, now he's in everything at this point, like Rebel Moon. And speaking of Silence of the Lambs, the sequel Hannibal would see it being vice versa, where Gary Oldman is the one hunting down Anthony Hopkins, Hannibal Lecter, unlike in this film, which is, you know, he's Van Helsing, and Van Helsing's always trying to track down Dracula. So it's kind of a fun, you know. And then we get the most controversial casting choice in the film. That was Keanu Reeves. Should have been Johnny Depp. I talked about this. So, like, I talked about this movie a while ago, and this is one of the things I mentioned. Woo, Keanu Reeves in this movie. This does not work. Thing is, he's not really in it. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's, like, in it that much, or, like, I don't know. But him and Winona Ryder would actually, like, appear together in a couple movies, such as Scanner Darkly by Richard Linklater, and then like a rom-com, Destination Wedding, which was, like, more later in their careers. It was, like, you know, during, you know, this is when, you know, this is John Wick, Keanu Reeves, and Stranger Things, Winona Ryder. And you have Richard E. Grant as Dr. Seward. Richard E. Grant, he's not like, I don't think he's that well known, but he's really good, you know. I mean, like, he's recently popped up in pretty big movies, you know, such as Logan and Rise of Skywalker. He's not in the best movies, but he's always really good in them. Then you have Cary Elwes. He was also pretty big, again, from, like, you know, I think I said in my Twister review, Princess Bride, so, you know, like, they had to kind of put him in there. Then here's this one. There's Bill Campbell. They casted him in this movie just because he kind of, like, he was in The Rocketeer, and I think The Rocketeer wasn't a big hit, but I think, like, the studio thought he was definitely going to climb the ladder, so they decided, like, oh, okay, let's put him in this because he was in that movie. And, yeah, Billy Campbell, like, he kind of is an actor who kind of just famously just, like, has disappeared from the face of the earth. Like, he's really, like, nothing. You have Sadie Frost, who I think is Jude Law's wife or ex-wife. I don't know if they're still together. Plays the Lucy character. Her and Bill Campbell, like, these actors didn't really, like, take off and be in a lot of stuff. Then you have Tom Waits as the Renfield character, because, you know, this is like the only like, actor in this who, like, Coppola has worked with a lot. You know, I said, like, Tom Waits, he's in both S.A. Hinton adaptations that he directed, Outsiders and Rumblefish. And he's kind of cool in this movie as Renfield. And then last one to mention is Monica Bellucci, who plays one of the wives of Dracula in this. And she would team up with another actress again in most recently. I'm literally recording this the weekend it came out. She would co-star with Winona Ryder in Beetlejuice. So that was a good turnaround. So with all the big costume designs, production designs, and big cast they had, which cost around $4 million, that would cost so much more today. It did pretty well, earning $215.9 million at the box office. It got nominated for... It won 3 Academy Awards, including Best Sound Editing, Makeup, and Costumes. Would have been 4 if it got visual effects, which it did not. That's what I'm really pissed at. Like, this did not get any recognition for the effects. That one is definitely a letdown. Also, like, it might have gotten like a lot of technical Oscars, but like, look, this movie really was meant to come off as like kind of Oscar bait. Like when you look at this definitely screams like an Oscar bait movie. Maybe they would have nominated it if it got like, if the Oscars back then would allow 10 movies like they do now. But they didn't really nominate this. Because I mean, look, like once in a while, like, the Oscars will acknowledge a horror movie. I mean, this is the year after Silence of the Lambs. And then the Oscars, they didn't really like mention another horror film until 2000 with The Sixth Sense, and then like Get Out, and then in the past you had The Exorcist and Jaws. So it's very, the Oscars are very on and off on like what horror movies they want to mention, because the Oscars are very hypocritical, and they didn't really give Bram Stoker Dracula a big lift. All right, now let me actually just like really just get down to talking about the film itself. So I've seen this movie like 3 times now, and I've always wanted to just love this movie and just consider the best Dracula movie ever made, best film in 1992, one of the best Coppola movies, horror movies, and it just never landed for me at all. I don't hate it. I don't think it's bad. I just think it's very overrated. Now look, on a technical level, this movie is great. It is phenomenal. It is, on a technical level, this is like one of the greatest movies of all time. But, like, I think the costumes are great. I think, Dracula's Romanian garb is great, minus the bee hair. Lucy's, like, wedding gown / burial clothes are great. Dracula's armor is great. Some of it's all fantastic. The sets are also just amazing to look at, and the effects. Oh my god! This came out like right in between Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park with years, like right in the middle. You have this movie, and it's just like everything about it is like the old. It's like everything about it is old. Like they wanted everything, like to be done on set. Like even like people like Quentin Tarantino have said how they don't really like CGI because like they want to just get it done on set, period. And that's what they did with this movie. They just made all these effects. It's all brilliantly done. But I just think this movie is just, to me, it is style over substance. There's not a lot of big character to it. I don't think the characters, to me, they're just not that interesting in this. Like even Dracula, it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, your wife killed herself. Okay. There's not enough for me to really just like these characters that much. It's very sad to say. I think Coppola just got way too like obsessed with the effects and just like paying tribute to cinema and all of that. Also, like, look, I think also maybe like it staying too close to the book is also another problem, because I think it gets a little too overcrowded with some of these characters, such as like Lucy or Quincy, or like, you know, Dr. Seward's role, or maybe Arthur Homeward. I think this movie gets a little too crowded for me when it comes to its characters. That's why I like the two Nosferatu movies, because they feel smaller. They basically combined Mina and Lucy's characters together in that film. And also, like, I think it just everything sometimes, like, there's some stuff that's just not executed well, like, you know, story wise. Like, I don't think like the ending though, like with like Mina and Dracula is like done well. Even still before that, like I wish the third act was just overall way better with the with killing of Dracula. Like, there's no big like actual final confrontation. Dracula just gets out of his box, they stab him a bit, and then he dies. That's all that happens. And like, I kind of wish, like, you know, they you know, we would have had more of something with him and Anthony Hopkins. Like, there's not enough of that. Like, there's not enough of a rivalry. You get that they really felt on that part. Look, it just overall, I have my issues with the film. I think overall, on technical, it's great. Story level, it's just not there for me.